What does she have to say?
Well, first of all, Debbie Stabenow is holding a hearing this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time that will feature the CEO of Smithfield Foods, Larry Pope. They're going to be making their case why this combination is in the country's interest, in the economy's interest, in America's interest for sure, and in Smithfield's shareholders' interest as well. Debbie Stabenow, however, she has questions about this deal. She doesn't outright oppose the transaction, but she has real concerns about national security, about food security specifically, whether or not this combination could pose risk to the U.S. food supply. She wants an interagency group of regulators to weigh in on that issue. But you can tell from our interview, she also has concerns about what this will mean competitively for the U.S. Could it lose the Japanese market as a result of this transaction? And she also is not that worried about any accusation the U.S. is closed for business.
You couldn't do this deal in China. Smithfield could not buy Shanwei. So I'm all for level playing field. I'm a huge proponent of exports and opening up markets. We don't have a problem with open markets. China has a problem with open markets, and I think that raises a lot of other issues for us.
And again, Senator Stabenow, the chairwoman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, one of the more powerful players up here on Capitol Hill on these issues. The fact that she is raising these questions about this deal is a risk for this transaction going forward. Again, she's not outright opposed to it, but she is raising some questions she hopes to have answered today at this hearing at 2:30.
Peter, I must admit, I'm a little confused about the whole food safety debate. Maybe she give you some more detail on that, because Smithfield's manufacturing operations are here in the U.S. There is high demand for pork in China, so won't most of the, I mean, it doesn't sound like as part of this deal you would have Chinese meat coming into the U.S. food supply that doesn't already.
You're right, and Smithfield has made that point. This is not about China ultimately exporting pork back into the United States, but what Stabenow makes the case is that this would be a precedent-setting transaction, that you can't be guaranteed that future transactions between Chinese companies and American food processors, that wouldn't be the case, that there wouldn't be exports coming back to the U.S. She wants to make sure that if this deal is scrutinized in that way, then future deals like this would also get the same kind of scrutiny. She's even raising the question about whether or not the law needs to be changed going forward. She again says this in the short term may be a good deal, may be all right, but she wants to make sure the bigger picture here about these kinds of transactions going forward, which are likely to increase as the two countries do even more business together, she wants to make sure the U.S. is covered in that regard.
And Peter, just quickly here, even if she does raise these questions, what's sort of the buzz on the Hill in terms of whether ultimately this will be approved? Is it still really an open question, or is the idea that she'll ask some tough questions and then the rubber stamp will come?
The sense here that I'm getting is that this deal is likely to go forward, maybe with some conditions along the lines that she's talking about with regard to food safety, but hard to argue that this transaction, unlike one involving military hardware, would compromise in any way U.S. national security. We are talking about pork and bacon here, as you pointed out, but again, with some conditions attached. The question, Julie, could those conditions be so onerous that maybe the two players, Smithfield and Shanwei, decide it's not in their interest? That would be the real question mark going forward, but most people here on Capitol Hill expect this deal to go forward.